Hey everyone, it's Joe, the 50-something Dasher, with another video here. This one is titled The Top 10 Keys to Being a Successful Dasher in 2024. Now, I kind of got the idea from this video from a lot of the other longer term, more successful gig tubers on YouTube, that you'll see that they regularly do videos like this where lists for being successful, or they'll shoot videos on dashing for beginners and things like that. So I wanted to kind of do a video along those lines. I doubt that I'll ever do a video on dashing for beginners, like an introductory video, because there's plenty of those videos out there, and it's just kind of going to be like repeat information. And so I don't see a reason for me to do something like that. But a video like this, where I come up with what I feel right now, if I had to choose top 10 keys to being like successful overall, this type of video, see, my opinions may be different from other gig tubers, and I feel like you can watch several different videos like this on this topic, and just it's good to get like a few different perspectives on a topic like this. Now, this video is not going to be geared toward somebody that is just logged on to DoorDash maybe like once a month, once every other month, just getting on every now and then just because they're bored and wanting something to do on the side. That's not what this is geared for. This is geared more towards people that need DoorDash as a maybe a second form of income, supplementary, or maybe even they're considering this for full-time income. In my case, I have a W-2, which I've talked about, but until recently, until the last few weeks, my hours really took a nosedive. And so I turned to DoorDash not only to supplement my income, but I actually started bringing home more money with DoorDash than my W-2 because of all the deductions that come out of my W-2 paycheck. So if you need DoorDash for income and you want to meet your goals and everything, be successful at it, then this is what I feel, like I said, if I had to choose, would be kind of like, as I look back on my 2,500 deliveries since December 2022, I feel that these are probably like the most important things that kind of led to this being successful for me. The number one, I'll start, this is going to be 1 to 10. Number one's going to be the most important thing, and I'm starting with number one because everything all starts with this. And number one is set goals. It's kind of like, if you don't have any goals set, then what are you even doing out there? So this is very important. And I'm not just talking about kind of like longer term goals, but you also want to kind of have an idea of what your goals are going to be for not just long term, but also like monthly goals and weekly and even daily goals. Now this is, like I said, I've been doing this a while, 2,500 deliveries, and just my personal opinion, I personally would not suggest with this kind of work, DoorDash delivery driving or any of the other gig work, I personally would not suggest setting your goal is like a certain amount of time that you're looking to work. Like, okay, like let's say I'm behind a lot of money on bills or whatever, so I want to log into DoorDash for I don't have anything else going on tomorrow. I'm gonna set my schedule for 12 hours tomorrow and just make as much money as I can in 12 hours. I personally would not recommend that. You're probably gonna get, or there's a good chance you could get burnout. There's a lot of things to consider, a lot of things that happen, even in just a single dash. You have stores that are closed and locked lobbies. You have different customer requests. You have this and that happens, and all like traffic and all these different things that happen in a shift. And there's a lot that can go on, and you can get kind of like tired and burn out. Especially if you're an older person like me, especially. But I just feel it's better to set it's a lot better to set a dollar amount, and even better if you can set like a range. Like my goal for the most part has always been $100, but if I'm at a certain level within at like a certain time, then that'll be good enough for me, and I'll shut it down at that time. Because trust me, with this job, and if you're new to dashing, you'll find this out for yourself within a few months. But in this particular line of work, it's not very hard at all to get kind of do too much too soon and then quickly get burned out. So by setting goals, especially like a dollar amount, and kind of sticking to that, and once you hit your goal, stop. Unless you're really, really feeling good and energized, and after meeting your goal, well, let's do another delivery or two. So, but otherwise, trust me, it's just best just to stop when you hit your goal, and then you'll be, not only will you not get burnt out that day, but you'll be kind of like anxious and ready when it's time to do your next dash. You'll be a little bit more energized and ready to do that dash, that whenever your next dash is after that. Number 2, and this is going to come with experience in your zone, but understanding your zone is very important. And the more of a comfort level that you can get with your zone, you'll get to know like where places are. You'll get familiar with some of your delivery points. You'll have like repeat customers that you deliver to, and once you get into that groove and get the comfort level with your zone, then things become a lot easier. It's there's not nearly the stress or anything. I would be cautious. By all means, if you want to try out other zones and everything, by all means do that. But just try to incorporate other zones slowly into the mix. That would be my suggestion. Now you're if you live in an area kind of like I do, where I pick up in one zone and I deliver to 5 different areas, 4 different zones, 5 different areas as I call it. But so I kind of get a taste of the traffic patterns and everything and where things are at in those other zones. So if ever there was a time where I wanted to work those zones, or I'm already, on some levels familiar with that area. But I would make sure to, whichever your home zone is, where your starting zone, where you first start dashing, I would just recommend getting a comfort level with that zone first, and then kind of slowly branching out to the other zones. Is my best advice on that. Number 3, track your metrics. This is very important. I know a lot of other gig tubers talk about this, and you want to have a spreadsheet or something that you create where you list the days that you dash on. I would recommend having your total dash time and your active time, how much money you made, the miles driven. You could even divide those numbers out to see what your hour. I have a total dash hourly rate, and then I'll sometimes calculate my active dashing hourly rate. And I've talked about those numbers in past videos. And then I also track things like contract violations, when I drop an order, then I track, because it'll, if you drop an order and that goes against your completion rate, and then 100 orders later, that'll fall off. So I track all those things so I know when things are going to fall off. And that's just going to allow you to, by tracking everything and knowing what's going on, it's just going to make things better as far as like managing your business and knowing what's going on. It's kind of like, and it's kind of similar to the first thing that I mentioned in this video, setting goals. It's kind of along the lines of that. But if you're not tracking your numbers or tracking your progress, it's kind of like, what's the point? If you don't, you got to know like how you're doing out there and what kind of numbers you're making. Otherwise, how do you know if this is really like beneficial to you or not? If you're not tracking anything and you're taking all these orders and driving long mileage, and you may not even know that you're only making like 30 cents a mile or something, and it's all the gas you're putting into your car, it's not, the job is not being beneficial to you, and you're not going to know that unless you track the numbers. Number 4, this may not be that important of a thing to other dashers, but I feel like it should be. But you want to have I just think it's important to have the attitude, this zone that I'm dashing in, this is my zone and this is my business. Okay, yeah, I understand there are other dashers out in the zone working at the same time as I am, but I treat it as my zone. And then like along with that, I like to, as best I can, differentiate myself from the other dashers. That's why I wear the hat and the DoorDash shirt and take a real like professional attitude to this. A lot of dashers don't. And I just feel like because I've taken ownership in what I do and ownership of my zone and my business, I just feel that's allowed me to be more successful, and that's gotten me to reach my goals and the things that I've wanted to do. I seriously doubt that I would have been elected to the DoorDash Council, the community council, if I was just some dasher that wasn't professional, that I just threw on any old dirty clothes and just went out and did orders and didn't care at all what I was doing and all this and that. I just don't think I would have gotten to where I am now and been successful with this had I had taken that attitude. Take it seriously. And if you want to be successful, take it seriously, be professional about it, treat it like a business and take ownership in it. And I just think all of those things goes a long way to being successful at this and meeting your goals. Then the next number 5 is I've got titled Ride the Tide. And what I mean by that is, and if you're new to dashing, you'll know what I'm talking about as you get into this. As the weeks go by, a couple months goes by, you'll kind of get a sense of this, but you really do. It really is like this kind of work is like a roller coaster. I've talked about it before. There's ups, there's downs, there's high paying days, there's low paying days. There's days when I get a lot of good offers, there's days where I get a lot of bad offers. There's days with hardly any downtime at all. I've had dashes where I've had over 5 hours of downtime in a single dash. So as best you can, I know it's hard sometimes because I get flustered a lot of times. You've seen me go on little tirade rants in some of these videos, so I get it. But as best you can, just kind of ride with the tide, go with the flow. Realize that when you have a bad day one day, chances are the next day is going to be better. And you just kind of go with it. Think of more like the long-term picture. And I've had some terrible dash days, but I understand that's all part of the game here, and you have to roll with it. You have to take the bad along with the good, and if you have patience and you can do that, then you're going to be a lot more successful. Trust me on that. So number 6 here is, okay, so I'm going to say this a couple times, and as I say it, I want you to also say this and repeat it with me. Okay, here we go, folks. DoorDash support is your friend. Okay, let's say it again. DoorDash support is your friend. Okay, this is very important. A lot of dashers might disagree with this, but I'm telling you, there's gonna be several instances that you run into where DoorDash will be your friend. And I wrote down here these are just like 3 examples that I wrote for this video of the many times where it's really benefited me to call DoorDash support. I know people don't want to, they're worried about the hold times and that type of thing, but it's really beneficial. Okay, so in 2023, July 11th, I was doing a Meijer shopping order, and the customer changed the address on me to a location clear out in Reynoldsburg. And I was not wanting to go clear out there. You're talking, I don't know, 12, 15 extra miles difference added to this route. And so I told the customer that it'd be better because there's Meijer locations out closer to that area. It doesn't make sense. It'd make more sense for a dasher to pick up the order out there and deliver it. So I advised the customer to cancel the order, which they did. And then I contacted DoorDash support. I ended up getting half pay for that. So I got half pay for an order that I think I shopped it, but I didn't have to check out and I didn't have to deliver anything, and I got half pay. Just 8 days later, on July 19th, another address change. Customer changed the address, added 12 miles. Now, on this particular order, I believe this was a catering order, and if I remember right, I think the order was already in my car, and this particular instance, I didn't mind driving to the the new address on this occasion. I didn't mind. But even still, I called DoorDash support. Hey, this is the 50-something Dasher. The customer changed the address on me. It's adding, GPS is telling me this is adding 12 additional miles onto my route. Can I get some additional pay for this? And support added $8 to my pay for that, which is better than nothing. A lot of Dashers might have just, they didn't want to cancel the order and take the food back or whatever. So they just drove the miles and didn't let anybody know and got the same pay for that. Whereas if they would have called support, they would have got extra money. August 9th last year, this was a really good example. I received a $11 13-mile Starbucks. Okay, so I get to the Starbucks and they said the order was already picked up, probably stolen from a previous Dasher. So I had DoorDash support cancel. I called them, had them cancel the order, take it off of me. Well, whoever I talked to kind of accidentally canceled it twice. So I ended up getting 2 half pay payments for the cancellation. Then I got reassigned the order again. And this time it was, instead of the $11, now the pay rate was $13.25. And so I pick it up, deliver it. So all total, with the $13.25 and the 2 half pays, I ended up making $28.25 off of that one order. And I wouldn't have made any of that money if I was a Dasher that just walked into the store and they said, oh, the order's already picked up. And then if I went into my app and took the order, dropped the order myself, then that's a double whammy there, because not only are you putting a ding on your completion rate, and you're not contacting support, and you wouldn't have got all this extra pay that I got. So again, now I'm not saying every single time I've ever called DoorDash support has been perfect and hunky-dory. I've had a couple times where they try to pick a fight with me, but for the most part, it has really benefited me in tricky situations to get that support from them. So highly recommended. And then, so next is only do the type of orders that you are comfortable doing. So with me, perfect example, I regretted getting into delivering alcohol orders. I'm not a big fan. I think it's more trouble than what it's worth. And so I finally was able, I've had to do it twice now, but I'm supposed to be opted out of alcohol orders. So if you know going into this that you're thinking that you don't want to do shopping orders, you only want to do food orders, don't get a red card. Don't get a red card. Don't activate a red card. Don't even start on it. So, because once you get into these programs, it's hard to get out of them. 'Cause I've seen videos on YouTube where in other markets you're supposed to be able to anytime you want, opt out of different types of orders, but I've never been able to do that in my market. So it's now that I'm in that I have a red card, I get shopping orders, and there's really no way for me to not get those offers that I know of right now. Alcohol is a little bit different. I was able to opt out of that, or I'm supposed to be. large order programs, I'm locked in, but that's a good thing to be into. You wouldn't want to opt out of that. Now I think for the shopping, I'm getting a little off topic here, but I think for the shopping, I can, if I want to, I've gotten emails saying that I can opt out of the high prioritizing for the shopping orders. I can do that, but I haven't. Next on the list, this is just my opinion, don't chase peak pay. I was watching another gig tuber a couple days ago about earning money with DoorDash in 2024, and every other sentence he kept talking about peak pay this, peak pay that, peak pay. It's a tongue twister. I can't keep saying it. No peak pays in this area. You got to have a peak pay. And I had to shut the video off. I look at peak pays as just like an added bonus when they're there. I have starting at the top of the list, I've set my goals, and then I've understand my zone. I do my metrics. I've done all of the things in my list up to this point. And so I have a way of doing things and a schedule that I stick to, and how I make my money. And for all of 2023, I've talked about this before, my numbers were consistent the whole entire year. They never wavered. So total dash time, $16 to $16.50 an hour. Active time, $25 an hour. Consistent across the board every month, January through December. And that's when there was peak pays, when there wasn't. I just don't factor peak pays into the equation. And I certainly would not recommend traveling to another zone just because there's like a peak pay. So let's say your zone doesn't have any peak pay right at the moment, but you see a couple zones over, there's like a $3 or $4 peak pay. So you go running up there to a zone you're not quite as familiar with just to chase that peak pay. I just would not recommend that. I've never done that. I've watched other gig tubers talk about this, kind of share the same opinion as me, but it's like how long, the peak pays aren't for whole entire days. They're just for typically a couple hours at a time. So how much is that really and truly going to benefit you for the little amount of time that it's going on? You have to get to the zone. You have to, even if you do the whole 2 hours of the peak, how many orders are you really going to do? I mean, are you going to do at most, let's say at most 6 or 7 orders, and it's a $3 peak? So was it really worth it to drive a couple zones over and dash there just to pick up $18? I mean, was that really that seriously important? So I would not recommend doing that. The other thing, in my experience, now this may be different for other zones, but in my experience, I would say it's probably about half the time, or a little bit more than half the time actually, when there is a peak going on. And if that really and truly does bring out more dashers like into the zone, then the frequency of the offers goes down. So I've had times in the past, I've had plenty of times where there's been a peak going on. I can remember one situation where I set an alarm and woke up early to log in early just because of a peak that I saw ahead of time that was going on. I don't think I got any offers at all. Like a whole hour and a half, 2 hour long stretch, didn't get any offers. So it's like, just because there's a good peak going on doesn't mean that you're going to get anything, and there's a chance it could bring all kinds of extra drivers into the mix, and it just again, I just look at that as an added bonus. I would not recommend factoring in peak pays into the equation, the equation of how you're going to meet your goals. Next on the list is stay in the know with changes. So I think, and I did this primarily through YouTube, and just kind of watching different content, see what's kind of trending, when you do just general like DoorDash searches, what are some of the latest kind of videos that are popping up, and just kind of every once in a while, it's not a bad idea to continue to do that. Sometimes you can find out about new things within DoorDash that are getting introduced into other markets, and you can watch videos from other gig tubers, kind of get an idea of what's going on in their market, and then you can kind of like prepare yourself for if that ever comes to your market. I had like this has been quite a while ago, but I had where I would see this streak challenge, and I had no idea what it was or how it worked, or that just I was on a dash one day and I completed a delivery, and then this little banner at the top that said, "You've completed 1 out of 6 orders. You got 5 orders to go to complete a streak challenge." I'm like, what the heck is this? And I was all confused and having to worry about that as the dash was going on or whatever. I actually, like, the first streak I ever completed, I completed it, and then I didn't get paid for it until like weeks later. They kind of like caught their mistake and went retro and paid me for that streak. But had I been watching other content and seen other dashers talk about that and got a little bit of knowledge about it, then I probably would have been prepared for it, a lot better prepared, and knew what was going on when it happened. And then there's this other thing that's never rolled out to this zone yet, but I've seen in other zones dashers talk about this tiered system that's kind of like replacing in some markets, like the Top Dasher and Catering program, this tiered program where it's like diamond, silver, diamond, and platinum levels. And there's videos on, like I said, on YouTube. You can check this out. I forget what it's actually called, but I watched some videos on that. Different people talking about it, kind of learned kind of how that worked, got a little bit prepared for it. So I know what that is, just in the event that it ends up being rolled out here, which, like I said, it hasn't yet. So that's a good thing to kind of do. Last but certainly not least, well, I don't know, this is kind of least compared to all the other things in my list, but I had to have a number 10 here. But number 10 is finish your deliveries. And this shouldn't even be in my list, I don't think, but I put it in here is I feel it's important. I don't know why this is an issue. I've talked about this in a past video, but I typically usually run around 99 to 100% completion rate. I don't drop orders very often. I don't see a real need to. As far as long waits at restaurants, I've talked about it many times in my videos, 10-minute drops. if DoorDash does not have to be the one to initiate a penalty-free drop. You can initiate it after 10 minutes. And if you're watching this video, watching my channel for the first time, you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and look at the other videos where I talk about this. Most Dashers don't know about it. So I don't know why Dashers drop as many orders as they do. Here in my market and the way I do things, and I typically, for the most part, only drop shopping orders. It'll be like a shopping order that I get at the end of a dash. I'm already tired. I get into the store. I pull up the list. There's some tricky items in the list. I have problems right off the bat with a couple substitutions. The customer is not responding to my messages, and now I'm starting to get a headache. And before things get from bad to worse, I go ahead and just drop it, get back into my car, go home. So if I do have drops, that for me, that's typically the situation. And it doesn't happen very often. But you don't want to needlessly drop orders like on a weekly basis and then have your completion rate start going down to the low 90s and kind of push in that 90%. And then, if you go past that, you can get deactivated. So it's best to just complete your deliveries, just push through problems. Remember, going back to my earlier point as well, always remember DoorDash support is your friend. If you're getting into a really tricky situation and you're about to drop an order, try to contact DoorDash support first for some help. Try to get the order taken off of you penalty free. Try whatever you can before just dropping an order and taking the hit on it. But anyway, I'll go ahead and shut this video down. So those are my top 10 keys to being successful in door dashing or this line of work in general. I really hope this video was helpful to anybody watching. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on any of these key points, and if you have anything else to add. And so that's all for now. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. As I mentioned earlier, check out my other videos. A lot of other information in those as well. And that's it for now. Thanks again for watching.